Hi everybody, welcome to a new episode of the Jeep Journal. From the previous episode, we have installed American Adventure Lab Highline Fender brace with daytime running light and signal lamps. However, as you can see over here, this is very exposed, and today we are going to fix this problem. As you guys have seen in the previous video where we installed the American Adventure Lab Highline Fender brace with daytime running light and signal lamps, you realize that we actually had to take out a significant amount of the stock Fender flares from my Jeep JL Wrangler Rubicon. Therefore, with that being said, we are not able to use back the original Fender flares or Fender lining, inner Fender lining, to actually cover up all these components that you see here in the engine bay. As such, we turn back to American Adventure Lab again to use their front inner fender, which has a quick release function, and today we'll be installing that. As you can see, I've laid out the parts on the table over here, this being the right side and this being the left side. Now, I've got to say, for right-hand drive models, you actually have to realize that the driver and passenger labels that is nicely labeled over here with a D or a P does not correspond to the right-hand drive models, because for the left-hand drive models, the driver's side is actually on the left side. However, there's another problem that I've realized is that this bracket over here, I will have to do some trimming to this because, as you can see, due to the right-hand drive and left-hand drive variants, we are not able to fit the passenger side, which is the right-hand side of the car, with these fenders. Thus, we will have to cut a little bit. If you were to look at the driver's side brackets, one side is actually thick and one side is actually thin. But for the passenger side, both sides are thick. As such, we got to make some modifications. And of course, now we shall go ahead first to remove the two fenders, the two fender flares, and let's get started. Okay, then the other side now. Okay, after removing both sides of the fender flares, we are going to go ahead to try to dry fit this right side mount bracket to the frame to see what's the extent of trimming that we actually have to do. So let me grab a pencil to make a marking and push this wire aside. You'll realize that what I'm talking about is these two holes that you see on the bracket will actually line up with this hole over here on the frame. There's a hole here, and there's another hole just behind this bolt that is actually being occupied by a clip, which we will have to remove using a clip remover tool, which I'm doing now. So after removing it and out of the way, you'll realize that actually there is another hole that is over here that you have to bolt this bracket to. But as you can see, this bracket is being hindered by this bolt that on the frame that you can see. So what we're going to do is we're going to trim away this part of the bracket so that it does not hinder the installation of it. So I'm going to use a pencil. I'm just going to draw a rough marking of where to cut, which is around here. Okay, and there we go. So now we'll remove it back out again, and we'll go on to the table to actually draw it better. So as you can see, for this bracket over here, we actually, the bolt is actually obstructing this bracket around here. So what I gotta do is, let us draw a line, okay, around here, and another line across to actually make it flush with this bracket line. Okay, so you can see that this will be the portion that we'll be cutting out. So I'm just going to shade it. So this will be the part that I will have to cut off, because there is actually a bolt that is on the frame that is going to obstruct this bracket from being installed flush with the frame. So now let's go on to the cutting from the cutting machine and cut off this part of the bracket. Okay, now that we are at this cutting area, I've actually already mounted this bracket onto this clamp over here, and you can see that what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a cut over here, just a small little short cut using a 4-inch cutting machine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually cut along the line that I've drawn out. So let us start. Okay, as you guys can see, I have already cut off nicely this portion of this bracket out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this from the clamp, and we'll go back to the table to actually neaten out everything. So as you guys can see now, this bracket actually looks more streamlined. And let us go back to the frame to actually try to fit this bracket in. Just give me a while I remove some of the metal shillings of this bracket. And now let's go to the frame to have a look. So as you guys can see, now that we have actually cut away this part of the bracket, you can see that now I'm able to fit the bracket, okay, over the bolt on the frame. So I guess this part is settled. So let's go back to the workbench. After working on this bracket over here that you see, I've actually used some touch-up paint to actually touch up the exposed aluminium to make it have a uniform black look. Okay, so in this hardware bag over here that you see, it contains M8 bolts that you are actually going to bolt into the frame of the car. And you should know that there's actually not a lot of space inside the wheel well. So that's one of the reasons why I had to remove the fenders too. Okay, so as you can see, we are going to be bolting these two M8 bolts into this hole over here. That's one, and another hole over here. That's two. Okay, but as you know, there's no way you can fit a washer or a nut behind. So what we'll have to do is we're going to drill the bolt into this hole into the frame. So we'll go about doing that with an electric drill. Okay, so using an electric drill, a 13mm socket, we are going to start drilling this bit into the frame first before installing up the bracket. Make sure that everything is straight on, and you're going to do it slowly. Okay, got to turn it. Okay, as you can see, the frame is very thick metal, but you can see that now this bolt is firmly in place. So what we're going to do next is we're going to remove this bolt, take it out. Okay, and we are going to go on to the next hole, and we're going to do the same, stack all over again, and place it over here. Okay, after we are done, remove this bolt again. Okay, so you can see that these two holes here, you can see that it's actually slightly threaded. So what we're going to do next is we are going to put the bracket here, and we will start to slowly bolt it into the frame. Okay, that's one. Let me grab the other bolt. and that's 2. Okay, let me find the thread. Okay, here we go. So now you can see that these 2 bolts are already threaded in nicely. Okay, what you are left with on the other 3 other components, okay, is a bracket like this, a bracket like this, and a small little bracket like this. So what's going to happen is you can see that there's actually already nutserts being installed into the holes of this bracket. So what's going to happen is you're going to take from the hardware bag again, okay, 2 of these bolts. Okay, we are going to be using this bolt to clip the fender flare onto the fender itself. American Adventure Lab actually provides this kind of spacer that you can thread through to actually, okay, very nicely, okay, secure the fender flare into place with this spacer. You can see that this spacer is indexed. It has 2 little humps over here that actually is supposed to fit in nicely to the clips, but we'll be removing the clips, so this will replace the clips over there. So what we're going to do next is we are going to be installing back the fender flares, okay, as you can see over here, okay, but there's a few white clips that we need to remove because we will not be using them. One of them being this clip over here. So all you have to remove is just flip up the clip and you can remove it, so you can keep this as a spare clip. And of course, according to the instructions, we will have to remove another 2 clips, which is over here, which corresponds to these 2 clips that you see over here. So we are going to go ahead to remove them. 2. There you go. Okay, you can actually keep the all other clips intact. Now you understand why it's easier to explain. American Adventure Lab provides these spacers to go with their bolts, because if you can see, what's going to happen is, okay, you are actually going to be bolting this bolt onto the fender flare, securing it, and these 2 knobs here on this spacer will actually correspond to these 2 square holes on the fender flare itself, so it fits nice and flush. It gives a very strong, secure look. So what we're going to do now is, before we install these fenders back, there's one more thing I need to do, which is to remove this part of the vehicle using a clip remover. Okay, this piece of plastic that you see that is being attached over here to the metal fender. So what I'm going to do is, using a clip remover, we are going to go ahead to remove the 2 push clips. Okay, let me get a good angle, and yeah, that's 1, and of course there's 1 more down here, okay, and 2. So you have to remove this plastic piece over here, because one of the brackets provided by American Adventure Lab will have to be installed on these 2 holes that you see over here. So with this small little mount, we are going to bolt it right here in this position with these 2 holes over here. So we'll go ahead to bolt them in. after bolting this mount bracket into place, what we're going to do next, we're going to mount the other brackets into place. Okay, now we're going to mount this bracket over here in this position for the two holes that we have removed the clips on the fender flares. So we're going to mount this fender flare back to the fender. Because of this guide over here, we need to go put it through this hole like that. Okay, so to do that, we need to position this bracket here, and at the same time put back the fender flare into position so that this thing stays in place. Okay, and put it all the way in. Alright, and after that we're going to use this washer provided and this hex bolt. We are going to bolt this bracket into place. So let's do it slowly. Okay, that's one in. Okay, so now we have one bracket that's the second bracket that's installed. Now we'll be installing the third bracket. Okay, and finally, for the last bracket that's provided, we are going to actually put it over here for these two holes. And to do that, let us thread the bolt through the washer. Okay, position the bracket in nicely and screw it in. Please do not rush because you are dealing with nutserts here. So if you don't go in to the nutserts properly, okay, you are going to have a high chance of stripping a nutsert, and it will be a pain to actually get it out. So there you go, we have one in. Okay, let me grab the other bolt. Okay, and we'll go ahead to screw the other bolt into the nutsert. Okay, and now you can see that we have installed all four brackets onto the fender. And of course, one of the four brackets is on the frame. So now let's move on to the next step. Okay, and now for the last step, we're going to piece up these two inner fenders. The inner fender is actually one big piece, but AL has actually split into two. So one of them already has nutserts done up for you. So all you have to do is to actually bolt them up to connect these two panels together. And as you can see, this whole inner liner is made of aluminium. It has a AL logo over here, which can be customized to your color from the website. So now, let us go ahead to put this inner liner onto the brackets using all these Dzus clips that is very easy to install. Just a quarter turn and you can actually tighten it up. But before that, we have one more step that we need to do. We have this spacer here that is to put onto the bracket that is actually screwed onto the frame. So now we'll go ahead to put this bracket onto the frame bracket. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to remove the front bolt. Okay, put this spacer over here behind and bolt it through and bolt it back onto the frame, and we'll go ahead to tighten it using a ratchet wrench. I don't recommend electric driver because I'm afraid that it will be too strong and it will strip the thread that you have just created onto the frame. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to thread the rest of the bolt in by hand. Okay, once we are done with this bracket over here, we are going to go ahead to put the inner fender liner in now. Okay, we will now go ahead to put the inner fender liner in. Do take note of this wire. So we are going to slowly put it in. Okay, it seems like I actually have to remove this plug over here from this mounting position. So I'm going to take a quick remover and I'm going to remove this. Okay, remove this plug over here. I'll plug this Fender running lights and signal lights in, and we'll push it all the way in. I'll cable tie them up later. So let us continue on to position the fenders. Okay, once the liners is in place, we are going to put in these Dzus clips. Okay, that's the second one in. Then we're going to go ahead to put in the third one. Okay, the fourth one. Okay. And of course, there's one more over here that you have to bolt in. Okay, you can actually use a flathead screwdriver, but for me, I've customized this tool over here with a thick minus, so it's easier for me to screw in the Dzus clips. And the last one goes to the one over here, so we'll go ahead to screw it in. Okay, and as you can see, we are done here with the right side, and we'll have to cable tie all these wiring nicely. And you can see that this inner fender liner is very solid. It's neat, it's very simple and nice, and I like the look of it. So the other side, the left side, is going to be exactly the same, just that to cut this video short so that it's not going to be a lengthy video, I'm just going to show you this side, and then after that I guess you guys can figure out the other side is exactly the same stats, the same brackets are mounted. Okay, so with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and this interesting product that actually gives you a very nice protection for your engine bay components. And with that being said, do look out for the next episode coming up. It's going to be interesting. We'll be working on Emily's JL Wrangler Rubicon. So with that being said, thank you very much